Would you like to know how to form the past tense in German? You have come to the right video because that's exactly what we'll talk about today. My name is Carlie Sitzman and I am a linguist who helps people learn German and communicate effectively with the language. So today we're talking about the past tense, and we're going to be talking about the conversational past tense that you will see a lot if you're talking to people. There's actually two ways to form the past tense in German. The first one would be the simple past, which is kind of similar to what is used in English. In English, you just make this dramatic change to the verb, and that's the past. Like you say, instead of saying I go, you say I went. Instead of saying I eat, you say I ate. That exists in German too, but they use it mostly for literary things, writing things down. They don't really use it to talk, hardly at all. What they use to talk is the present perfect tense, or at least their equivalent of that. So in English we have present perfect, and that's when you say something like I have gone, I have eaten, I have walked. And basically what you're doing there is you're using have with a verb. And that's exactly what you're going to do in German as well. These are used differently in German and English. In English, when you use this present perfect, you are talking about something in the past that is very, very relevant to the here and now. And it does not have that same meaning in German. When you are using the present perfect in German, you are simply talking about the past in a conversational way. So this is going to be really useful for when you're speaking German. Okay, so we want to have the same basic structure as English. In English, you might, for example, say, I have learned. In German, to say the same thing, you would say, I, habe, have gelernt. So basically, when you use this verb haben in German, which means to have, you are going to have to conjugate that whenever you create the past tense. And I have another video about the various conjugations of haben. I will put the link here somewhere. And you can watch that, so I won't go over it now. But make sure you conjugate haben properly. So in this case, it would be ich habe because we're using ich, which means I. So once you have the pronoun ich, you have the correct conjugation of haben, habe, then you will need the past participle of the action verb. So one of the first things you're going to do to the action verb when you're doing this past tense or present perfect in German is add a ge to the beginning of the root of the verb. And it would help a lot if you are clear on what the root is first. All German verbs have an en on the end when you just look them up in the dictionary. To get the root or the stem of this verb, you need to delete the en every time, and that will give you the stem, or the root. Once you have that, you add the ge to the beginning, and you add a t to the end, and that makes the past participle for a lot of verbs. That's the standard way to form it. There are also a lot of verbs that are exceptions. For example, if you have a verb with a d or a t on the end of the stem, you will add an et rather than a t. So if you have like reden, which means to talk. The root of that is red, which ends in D. So you will still add the ge to the beginning, but then you will add et to the end. If you have something with an ieren on the end, ieren, like telefonieren, which means to make a call, basically, you will not add a ge at all. And you will still delete the en and add the t. So no ge, just the T in that case. And then there are other verbs that just don't follow any of those rules. Some verbs will take the GE, but you will not change the ending at all, like sehen, which means to see. That's gesehen with the past participle, gesehen. Let's say you want to talk about swimming. Swim, that starts out as schwim, being the stem. You still add the GE, but then the stem changes and you still have the en, so it turns into geschwommen. That doesn't meet any of the rules at all. So you just have to memorize those. And if you speak German for a long time, you'll kind of get used to that and you'll be able to recognize when you need to use the irregular form. So now we have a simple sentence. Ich habe gelernt. And this is great, but what if you want to add details? Like, what did you learn? Maybe you learned math, which is Mathe. Whenever you add an detail, it has to go in the middle. So, ich habe must be at the beginning every single time. The details come after that. And the past participle of the action verb comes at the very end, every single time. So you could say, ich habe Mathe gelernt. I learned math. If you want to say you learned math in February, you could say, ich habe im Februar Mathe gelernt. So you added a bunch of new details, but ich habe is still at the beginning and gelernt is still at the end. It doesn't matter how many details you add. Everything has to go in the middle. Kind of like a Big Mac, right? No matter how many patties you add, there's always a bun on top and a bun on the bottom. Ich habe is one bun and gelernt is the other bun. Now there is one twist to the story with this past tense. You almost always use haben at the beginning, but sometimes you use sein, which means to be. And you need to conjugate that properly. I have a video on how to conjugate that as well. I will put the link somewhere. Once you have conjugated that, you're going to have something like ich bin, I am. And you use this formulation with action verbs that involve movement from point A to point B. So basically every time you make the past tense, you need to ask in your head, am I moving from point A to point B as a result of the verb? Does the verb say that I have to move? And if the answer is yes, you use sein. If the answer is no, you use haben. For example, if you want to say come, kommen. So obviously you are moving from point A to point B. Otherwise you would not be able to come to a certain location. So you would have to say ich bin gekommen. I came. Then there's schwimmen again. You're not moving very far, but when you do swim, you're usually moving from point A to point B in the swimming pool. So you also must use sein for that. And you could say, ich bin geschwommen. If you're using laufen, like you're saying that you're running, laufen, that could also mean walk. You are definitely moving from point A to point B when you do that. So you say, ich bin gelaufen. If you are driving a car, definitely moving. So fahren, to drive, would be ich bin gefahren. So keep that in mind. That's a very important part of German grammar and people will notice that for sure. Well, that's it for the past tense today. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure and like and subscribe at the bottom. And also, if you have more questions pertaining to the past tense, let me know in the comments. I might make another video or answer you directly. So thank you for joining me and happy learning. Tschüss.